Good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Fuck, that looks dark. Anyway. If I adjust these settings and this stream crashes, I'm going to be upset. Okay, good stuff. Kind of scared me for a second. That was some chapters last night. We got some crazy chapters. They were something else. And of course, the two secretaries are somewhere in here helping us, because without them, I wouldn't be able to do this at all. Okay. It's all downhill from here. And it seems as if I do have the sniffles a little bit. It's just the time of year, though. And I'm at home quarantined, so it doesn't really matter anyway. They are both ladies. And two of the most ladylike ladies I have had the pleasure of meeting. I just I honestly hope Ashley's gonna be okay. I fear for that girl. At least Corey has a little more of a worldly being. Like she's been places, she's done things. You know, she's in the army or in the Air Force. And then you have Ashley, who's just been back at home waiting for Arthur to return. Like as soon as he left, she paused. If it's out of Arthur's eyesight, like if it's out of his vision, it doesn't exist. So Ashley sat back at home, and I think we're going to see her again. I think. But we did talk about how the two girl thing is now coming up, and I don't know how that's gonna. I don't know how that's gonna work out. Me too, but I'm hoping. Oh, I'm hoping for that girl. So I saw that old Greg is sort of having a little temper tantrum on Twitter, all in capital letters. Let it go, Greg. It's over. I love how Greg tries. He's not as good as he used to be because, you know, Chris Hansen said, "You can come on my show to say your side of the story." And Greg turned around and said, "No, you come on my show and tell your side of the story." Like, number one, you don't have a fucking show. I have a show. And saying that, let's get this started. How about? Good evening, and welcome to Doctorpiece Theater. My name is Dr. Dennis Business, and tonight we will continue our dive into This Is Why I Hate You. When we last left our hero, many things happened. And honestly, it was a really long read, and I don't remember where we came from. I remember Arthur went after Airman Austin with that asp, and he tried to murder his commander in practice. And I think, and then the colonel came in and licked his balls and said, "You might be our weapon, son," and shit like that. The military doesn't work that way. There's no Captain America's chosen out of the group because they're special. Oh yeah, boots. Forgot about that. Wow. Yeah, I didn't miss it. Chapter 19. The Taste of Anger. It's been quite a few months since the incident with Senior Airman Austin. It's been quite a few months since the incident with Senior Airman Austin. They could no longer use him for normal police duties due to him having inconsistent and defective coordination. His depth perception was shot, and his peripheral vision was cut in half. Austin was likely going to sit behind a desk for the rest of his life. Speaking of which, he now works at a desk inside the squadron managing the ROD squad. Airmen, temporary relieved of duty, who no one else wants to deal with. I think Airman Austin could have used his situation to get a medical discharge, but unfortunately, I think he's like me in the sense that he doesn't see much of a future for himself outside the military just yet. I mean, I don't plan on staying in. I'm just not in a hurry to get out. Wonder fucking why you want to. Just after I got my neck brace off, Lieutenant Colonel Haas signed me up for every other training event he could. I was flown all the way back to the States to get trained on various high-powered weapons, to include the 50 caliber machine gun, which has been known to literally rip people in two on impact. The amount of power they were giving someone with the significantly limited life experience I had was ridiculous. But that's what you get from volunteers. We were just a bunch of people who were young enough to say yes, and we weren't wise enough to say no. I was also sent to SWAT training, where I learned all about how to empty out buildings. This project involved mostly Army soldiers and barely any other airmen. During a middle-aged, high-ranking Marine trained me on close-quarters combat. He was far more skilled than I was, but in comparison to the rest of the class, I did very well. There was even a point where I was given the opportunity to hurt the Marine, like I did Martinez. But when I made the first of my normal sequences of moves, he dropped me instantly. I loved the feeling of trying to hurt someone and failing miserably. It excited me. I had to learn all I could from that man. I wanted to become more capable with his guidance so I could defeat anyone as skilled as he was. The SWAT trainers, the Marine in particular, trained me incredibly well. I went in an amateur to close quarters combat and came out a professional. It was incredibly fulfilling. During one of the many training events I was sent to, I got a call from Booty back at the base. I didn't have a phone on me, but she called the building I was training in and worked out with someone that if she called to connect us. Booty and I weren't heavy talkers, so most of what she said involved her getting a new roommate. Initially, it sounded like a bad thing, considering it limited our more intense bedroom moments to just my room, but when I returned to base, I was subjected to literally the best case scenario. Back at the base. Walking down the hall towards Booty's room, I heard two girls laughing. I was happy to hear my girlfriend was actually getting along with whoever was there. I set my bags in front of my door and kept walking towards her room. Booty had the bad habit of leaving the door open, so I didn't need to knock. When she saw me step in front of the door, she exploded with excitement. She ran up and jumped on me while screaming about the identity of her new roommate. As I felt Booty's warm embrace and heard the roommate's name being spoken, my eyes fixated on the young, beautiful blonde woman standing there. The girl stared back at me with a huge smile on her face. Tingles shot through my body as I held my girlfriend while looking at the new girl. It was Corey. Still holding my girlfriend, Corey walked up to us and hugged us both. My girlfriend quickly said, "Hey now, don't get too fresh. I just met you." I laughed and replied, "Don't worry, Corey's awesome." What? Over dinner at the base's only restaurant, Corey explained that she was given the opportunity to go straight from her deployment to my base in Korea once her time there was up. South Korea is a base that often takes people away from their non-immediate families. If you're lower ranking, the hours are so long it can be difficult to stay in touch with most anyone back home. This fact made the base easy to get assigned to. In fact, people probably thought Corey was crazy to want to go straight from one deployment to another. Regardless, Corey didn't seem even remotely upset that I was with Booty. If anything, she encouraged it. Basically, Corey was being the most amazing friend she always was. As we ate, my girlfriend asked, "Have you and Artie ever dated?" I smirked at this question, and Corey laughed. "No, never. He has been the best friend I have ever had, though. I literally volunteered to come to this base because I missed him so much." Booty saw in how sincere Corey was and asked, "Do you love him?" Corey smiled and replied, "Absolutely." Booty blushed, hearing Corey confirm her love for me. In an admiring voice, Booty said, "I guess that makes two of us." I spoke up saying, "You guys are killing me." Booty laughed and replied, "No, really, I've never had someone defend me like Artie has. When he cares about someone, he'll throw down for them, no matter what." Corey then asked about What exactly happened? And Booty explained what I did to the last guy that put his hands on her. Corey was stunned. She abruptly asked, "Oh my God, are you talking about the guy with the eye patch? You did that, Arthur?" I nodded in response, and she continued, "That's the guy who was assigned to show me around the base and process my paperwork." I replied, "Well, watch out for him. He's a pervert, obviously." Corey smiled and replied, "I guess I don't have to watch out with you around." I looked at my still slightly damaged hands and said, "No, you do. He's a bad guy. I know it." Before there was significant silence, Booty spoke up in an optimistic tone. "How about this veggie burger, huh?" "Oh, my bad. You guys eat meat." Pause. "Yes, that's right. I'm dating a vegan." Literally thought I'd never bother with a vegan, but love obviously has nothing to do with your diet. Even the hatred I have for my father and everything he stood for couldn't distract me from the fact that Booty is genuinely a good person who has been amazing to be with since day one. Diets are essentially irrelevant in relationships as long as both people are healthy. Corey added, "I barely eat meat at all, actually." Hearing the conversation going deeper into diets started to make me sick. I can only take hearing about topics that reminded me of my father for so long. I spoke up. "Can we please just not talk about this?" They both lost it with laughter. Booty jabbed me in the shoulder. "Shut up, hater," and laughed again. She could see I was upset, but knew I would get over it. As they talked constantly the rest of my meal, I mostly just sat there and angrily cut into my steak into abnormally tiny pieces. Every swallow was a slap in my father's face. Good. What? That was chapter 19 of This Is Why I Hate You. I don't know what that was. Nothing even happened. Although they flew all the way across the world. One minute they were in Korea, next minute she was at the base and they were in her dorm room, which I've said it before and I'll say it again, the military doesn't work like that. Excuse me. Military doesn't fucking work like that. Go where you want. Do what you want. Military doesn't work. I had my back door open because one of those big joints set off the fire alarm last week, and one day I'll show you that footage. Makes my nose cold. So, chapter 19. That one lost me. And was his dad some sort of an evil vegetarian? Because now he's eating meat, and he's like, he's all like, "Fuck you, dad, chomp. Fuck you, dad, chomp." And I don't know when his dad said he couldn't have a fucking steak. The base is in. Oh, she went to South Korea. That's even more fucked up. It is unbelievably hard to have to read a conversation with these three idiots. It's not even normal. That's not how people sound. People don't talk like this. A family of robots would look at this book and be like, "Boop beep, that's not how people talk." It's unbelievable. It's not how people talk. Diets are essentially irrelevant in relationships as long as both people are healthy. And I apologize if Booty and Corey sound alike because I think I only have two girl voices. One is like Valley Girl, the other one's like sultry. And I don't think sultry would fit in. That was my mom. So now we had a girl count yesterday. Ashley, Corey, Booty, and Corey. That's 4. No, you're not. The sultry one is staying in the fucking character save. I may need it one day. Okay. We are at the base in South Korea. Again, we are constantly in the army, but there is no soldiering happening. They're hanging out in their bedrooms. They're at the only restaurant on the base. There's not even any other soldiers around. There's not even any Koreans around, and we're in Korea. You wouldn't know it. I'm gonna need one moment. That bothered me, that one did. One of those can't get comfy. I'm getting all fired up, I think. I got fired me up. Chapter 20. The Gift of Love. In Korea, they would at times offer up opportunities to go on temporary duty assignments. I volunteered for every single one because that's what I do. I volunteer when most everyone else is too afraid to or otherwise is unwilling to. Not only did I not want to let the colonel down, but I also felt that's how I could best serve my country while I was in. Initially, I was supposed to go to the desert like Corey did. Only 2 weeks instead of 6 months. But fate had a different plan for me. Finally, after volunteering countless times in the past, they slotted me to go on a short deployment to a combat zone. This meant I would be tax-free for a small part of the year and would get TDY pay, which in many cases is well worth the trip. On our way to the desert, we had to combat dive. Combat diving made for one of the worst experiences I've had in some time. The non-cop airman on board the plane was pretty upset with me for getting out of my seat during one of their many strategic maneuvers. The problem was, I needed to get some kind of a puke bag before I vomited soda and chewed up burritos up on their expensive equipment. After walking towards the front of the plane for only a brief period, I finally listened to the airmen screaming for me to sit down. I sat in an open seat, and one of the crew members told me to put on the oxygen mask. They pointed beneath my seat to grab the mask. I put the mask on. The fresh air surged into my Chapter 20. The Gift of Love. In Korea, they would at times offer up opportunities to go on temporary duty assignments. I volunteered for every single one because that's what I do. I volunteer when most everyone else is too afraid or otherwise unwilling to. Not only did I not want to let the colonel down, but I also felt that's how I could best serve my country while I was in. Initially, I was supposed to go to the desert like Corey did, only for 2 weeks instead of 6 months. But fate had a different path for me. Finally, after volunteering countless times in the past, they slotted me to go on a short deployment to a combat zone. This meant there would be a tax. This meant I would be tax-free for a small part of the year, and I would get TDY pay, which in many cases is well worth the trip. On our way to the desert, we had to combat dive. Combat diving made for one of the worst experiences I've had in some time. The non-cop airmen on board the plane were pretty upset with me for getting out of my seat during one of their many strategic maneuvers. The problem was, I needed to get some kind of a puke bag before I vomited soda and chewed up burritos on their expensive equipment. After walking towards the front of the plane for only a brief period, I finally listened to the airmen screaming for me to sit down. I sat in an open seat, and one of the crew members told me to put on the oxygen mask. They pointed beneath my seat to grab the mask. I put the mask on. The fresh air surged into my lungs, but it didn't help. Finally, they got me a puke bag, but unfortunately, the bag was full in a matter of seconds and nearly overflowed. I was just lucky I could force it to stop until I had something else to hurl in. Seeing how dire the situation was, a sergeant jumped up and grabbed a large black garbage bag. They handed it to me, and immediately I threw the smaller bag. They handed it to me, and immediately I threw the smaller bag, only to following it by adding additional vomit directly from my body. After a short while of that, I mostly explosively projectile vomited, which made everything come out pretty fast. We landed the plane, and I walked off, giant garbage bag full of vomit in hand. We were quickly shown to our rooms at the base, and I was up first to guard the plane we came in on. It would be nice to say I got into some life or death situations during this TDY for the sake of entertaining anyone reading this, but I didn't. The most activity we saw on that TDY was our repeated combat diving. Me being extremely motion sick and not a fan of the desert climate, you can assume this experience was pretty miserable for me. My time in the desert served as a great example of why so many other people didn't volunteer. Yes, you get paid a little extra, but you deserve more than that after what they put you through. Like I said, this is why cowards live and people like me die young. We know we're in for it, and we sign up anyway. When I arrived back at the base in Korea, I headed straight to Corey and Booty's room with all of my bags in hand. Her door was closed, which told me she likely wasn't there. But I still knocked. Just like I expected, no one answered. "Hey, killer, we're over here!" Corey hollered from my room. I smiled and wobbled towards her with all of my bags dangling and smacking my sides. Corey laughed at how silly I looked and went back inside. As I walked in the door, I could see Booty laying on my bed in a provocative fashion. Booty said in an alluring tone, "Hey, Artie." I smiled somewhat confused and asked them both, "How have you guys been?" Out of nowhere, Corey said, "Rachel wants us to have a threesome." I froze in place. I was at an absolute loss for words. As we all stood in silence for at least 10 seconds, Booty cracked up and started busting up laughing. "Oh my God, she's kidding," Booty said. I was still suffering the intense rush of blood surging through my brain to snap out of it. Corey giggled and got to the point. "No, but we do have something to talk to you about," Booty then said. "Come sit." Dropping my bags on the floor, I walked over to sit next to Booty. Now, normally people who live in the dorms just have twin beds. But because I don't have a roommate, I just pushed the two twin beds together to form one king-size bed. I didn't have a roommate. I just pushed the two twin beds together to form one king-size bed. Corey walked over to the now king bed and sat on the second half of it. Corey grabbed my hands, looked into my eyes, and said, "We wanted to be upfront with you about what's going on the moment you got back." I started to feel panicky, and Booty could tell, so she began rubbing my back. Corey confessed, "Rachel and I are falling for each other." I jumped off the bed and in a loud tone said, "Wait, what?" Booty jumped up and hugged me and said it again. And I said again, "What? Really?" Booty answered while hugging me, "We both love you. Don't hate us." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This felt like betrayal. I said angrily, "If you love me, why are you screwing me over?" In a calm tone, Corey answered, "There's a reason you and I get along so well. There's also a reason why you and I are attracted to the same people, Arthur." Still frustrated, I replied to Corey saying, "What are you talking about?" Corey immediately replied, "I'm gay, Arthur." Of course you are. Hearing this, I felt like my head and my heart were about to explode. Corey added, "Don't think about it. Think about it. Don't talk. Just think, Arthur." With Booty's arms wrapped around, I removed myself emotionally and focused on everything that had happened up to that point. Corey and I always got along perfectly. We had almost all the same interests and loved each other, but despite that, she and I had never gotten together. Even after I tried to date her, we remained friends. I thought I was just ugly to her, or that she didn't like me personally enough to be with me. I was clearly wrong. She said it herself, she's a lesbian. But what did this mean for my girlfriend? I was done thinking about it, so I asked Corey, "What's gonna happen?" Booty, now only half hugging me, said in a happy tone, "Nothing really, Artie. You and me are still together if that's okay with you. And I'm falling for Corey too. And we thought it would be okay because you're a boy and she's a girl." I thought about what she was saying and couldn't think of a single way in which this was a bad thing. Firstly, I thought Booty was leaving me. Secondly, I don't think you all know how much I love Corey. She and I had already been through so much together. I've told Corey literally everything about myself at this point, even the stuff I talked about holding back before. And this just brought me closer to Corey. In my addition to this, the new arrangement just allowed for my girlfriend to be happier. I said to them both, "You're both right. You'll be happier this way. And I love you. So this is the way it should be." Immediately, Booty hugged me extremely tight around my ribs, and Corey, looking increasingly emotional, walked up silently and gently wrapped her arms around my shoulders to hug me as well. Something occurred to me that I didn't ask before. "Oh, have you two done anything?" Booty replied. "You mean like do it?" Corey interrupted. "No, we wouldn't do anything without making sure you were okay with it." Hearing this put a big smile on my face. It was amazing to have two people who cared that much about how I felt. Two people who were that loyal to me. I said to them both, "Well, I'll leave you two alone then. Love you." As I was walking out, I glanced at Corey to catch her silently mouthing the words, "Love you," towards me. I closed the door as the two of them began kissing. I decided now was a good time to head to the chow hall and eat. This was a pretty emotional time for Corey, likely more than anyone, considering how anti-gay her environment consistently was. She probably hadn't yet had the opportunity to be with a woman like she was with my girlfriend. I was really happy for her. Oppression of oppression of people for the way they were born is one of the reasons that I can't stand most humans. I was raised in a split home. My mom was always telling me to be myself, to be strong and stand up for what I believed in. Meanwhile, my dad, he is just another religious, self-righteous, pretend optimist who passively demonizes everyone who was born significantly different than he was. Everything I can do to contradict him is a victory in some way. Everything I can do to make the people I love happy, well, that's an even greater victory. As I ate chicken and drank ginger ale in the chow hall, I thought about Corey and Booty back in the room. My mind went wild thinking about what they could be doing. I always try. I tried to always be a gentleman around most women, but in my mind, I would fantasize about them constantly. I can't say it enough. My mind is routinely invaded by perverted thoughts. The millions of potential human beings I carry between my legs every day inspire this line of thinking. They demand I think about these things, and I'm not afraid to admit it. It's just who I am. Think about it. What are we supposed to expect from people who have a significant part of their body demanding they reproduce? It's not like some outside influence sharing a mere opinion. It's a literal piece of you whose sole purpose is to procreate. That's the difference between us and the rest of the animals. And us, really. That's the difference between the rest of the animals and us, really. Most of us have similar equipment, but humans chose to use it differently because we cling to the concept of civility and social expectations. In a lot of ways, that's not even a bad thing. The power to choose and how we execute that power defines us. A lot of people use animals to justify what they do in their daily lives. I've had my share of fights, but I don't use me being an animal as an excuse. It's natural. Animals do it. You know what animals also do? They mount every other animal they see and try to breed with them mindlessly, even their own family members. As far as food, many animals will literally cannibalize each other. If you have a dog or cat and you die around them, sure, they might not eat you right away, but once their food runs low, your digested body is going to fill a litter box. Do any other animals drive cars? Do any of them complete complex math problems or even speak a consistent and clear language? No. So why is it okay for people to trick girls into sleeping with them only to abandon them in the morning? Why do we act so shameful, selfish, and greedy? Why do we use and abuse each other only to turn and say, hey, we're just a bunch of animals anyway? Comparing us to the other animals is like putting a bicycle next to a spacecraft and saying it's the same thing. You have unlimited potential, yet you constantly point at creatures who aren't even as intelligent as human toddlers to justify your actions. Pathetic. I've hurt people, broken their bones, but I do that because I choose to. I won't use an intellectually inferior wild animal to justify my behavior. Racism, sexism, homophobia, hate crimes, we're only monsters if we let ourselves be. You can't choose how you're born, but you can choose how you treat people who are born different. The people who treat Corey badly, the reason she was brought to tears just because I accepted and embraced who she is, and to that massive list of reasons why I hate most everyone. My God. That was chapter 20 of This Is Why I Hate You. Well, we knew it, didn't we? We fucking knew. We knew. We knew. I feel like, you know that scene where Arthur comes back and the two girls are there and they run and hug them, and the girls hugged him different. One ran up all bouncingly, like a sort of like a valley girl would. Oh my god, I'm so happy to see you. And then the other one came up sort of like the, like the quiet lesbian, like, it's nice to see you again, Arthur. Shit. I don't know how to act like a lesbian. That was terrible. But you know what I mean? So as soon as I read that, what I pictured in my mind was Greg walking into a fucking building, seeing those two sitting on a couch, having Sarah run up like a teeny bopper, and then have his wife come along like the second. It was, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? It reflects reality. It abs. This book does something repeated over. Well, that's a terrible thing to say. This book asks the reader a lot of questions. And I guess maybe I didn't notice before, but when we get into something like this 3-person relationship, it's almost as if the author is manipulating the subtext to drag the reader along to that line of thinking instead of having a plot where we're taking the story from point A to point B. Oh. It's manipulation to get to the end. We started, and then when did this book come out? I guess it's silly to look in the inside cover for any information whatsoever. Oh. No. Manufactured by Amazon.ca, Bolton, Ontario. Well, whatever. And a barcode for Amazon. Something did throw me off in the middle of reading this, and oh God, please, there it is, sticking out at you like a sore fucking thumb. We landed the plane. P-L-A-I-N. Plane. So it was a very mediocre flight. Well, Can somebody do me a favor? Is that the book came out in 2015? Okay, so Dr. Business needs a whiteboard, and I don't have one. So the book came out in 2015, September 2015. Okay. Those were a couple of those were odd chapters. Okay, so where are we now? We are now on the military base in Korea. Everything is volunteer. Arthur is free to just fucking dick around with the furniture. He can be like, there's nobody in my room. I'm totally going to make this my space. You can't do that in the army. Everything is bolted to the fucking floor. It's how the army is. You don't build forts in the Air Force. Like, anywho. Oh my gosh, Jessica, thank you so much. Goat gang. I actually didn't realize I read for that long. Those chapters were very long. Kind of goes by like that for me. But thank you everybody for coming to listen. We're getting to the end of this book. Really, we're getting to the end now, and we've done 2, so we should do the 3rd one. You know what? I can't look at the screen when I talk because it just doesn't work that way. You know what? The secretaries know more about that than me. I still can't find where the shit goes. So, but I do appreciate everybody coming by, and I know a lot of you are stuck in quarantine, and that's not very much fun. But there's an easy thing to remember during this trying time. Go home and stay home. Plaguecation. Take one at your house. But this has been Doctorpiece Theater. And my name... Oh, fuck. We can't get into that. There's something else I got to say. Mystery boxes are going to be fun, and that is bubblegum. Mystery boxes are going to be very fun. I think there's 7 people in, so get into the mystery box because I'm super fucking excited. But this has been Doctorpiece Theater, and my name is Dr. Business. Holy, I can't even fucking think. Fucking book. My name is Dr. Dennis Business. And as always, my live friends,